Hey everyone, welcome to the Underswell. I'm Derek Sabori. Thanks for being here. Our countdown is done. We're live on this side, Breene. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek.
And I'm stoked to have you. Great to dive into it. How's your day going so far, Breene?
It's going great.
Did you get some surf in? I'm not going to let you answer. I'm going to first ask. I should have asked. Did you get any surfing in today?
No, I had an in-person presentation with a client, and so I drove out to Orange today, and I couldn't get in the water. But I do, one of my favorite things is actually to do the in-person presentation, just because it's so impactful to teach people about finance, because like our country has a two-place system of, Social Security, which is not enough, and tax breaks that help you invest. And just having people see, the lights turn on, oh, this is actually what I'm supposed to do. The government created these tax breaks. It's not like a cheat code. This is the purpose of them is to help me have long-term financial security. We were just talking about coaching before we hopped on.
Yep.
There's this weird nerdy joy that I get just having it go on. So even though I didn't get to surf this morning, I did get to do that. And
you were still fulfilled in that same way.
Different way. Well, there's a joy with surfing that is, I don't know, it's so incomparable,
Well, let's start there. What is the joy? How you've been a surfer obviously for a long time. We're talking about this idea of
30 plus years now, 35 years.
So we're talking about creating a meaningful life. What role does surfing play for you?
I think surfing for me is the purest form of presence and connection to nature that I have. There's this moment. So there's two big things that I love. One, just sitting out in the water, just sitting in the water. But I find that there are still thoughts, and they're kind of softly in the background going through. I find it to be really helpful if I'm struggling with a work problem, to be sitting there, and just in the water. I have great ideas when I'm sitting out in the lineup all the time. Great ideas. You don't always know if your ideas are great until you use them.
They sure feel great though.
They feel great.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the sitting is really beautiful and meditative, and then there's this moment when you turn around and you start paddling and the wave is cresting, and there's I start digging in and I can feel the speed, and that moment where I get up to the feet, I don't think about anything else in the world, and I'm just tapped. And waves are not, they're water, right? But it's what they actually are, lines of energy that connect to the bottom of the ocean. And it's just that deep connection right to this energy source.
Tapping into it.
Yeah. And just watching the wave and what is possible. And, the best moments are always when, pulling into the tube and the lip of the wave crests over you. And there's a sound that's almost like the sound of the universe. And it's
yeah, it's like an emptiness, right? It's like this silent emptiness that is almost really hard to describe because it's just vacuous. But there's
but it's like the sound of space. The sound of pure energy or something like that. And then to come out, it feels like a rebirth. It's just so. I don't get that feeling all the time because you need certain quality of waves, and I don't really have access to that on a day-in-day basis. I'll go chase it a little bit, but that connection just spreads joy into my life, and that joy and that playfulness makes it easier to tackle difficult issues. And, whether that's a challenge that I'm trying to work through at work, or, we were talking about coaching kids, it helps me bring that enthusiasm, or something like this. This could be very scary for somebody to be talking, in front of other people. But for now, I don't know, I got to surf a couple days ago, and it just, it sticks with me, that sort of, that joy and that playfulness. And I feel so grateful that I'm able to do that, and something I love. And so the gratitude spills over, and that gratefulness, so for me, surfing was the core thing that I did before I figured out what I wanted to do for a career, before I met the woman I would marry, before I met my children, and before I really got into, I'd say surfing and books were the things that really started as like core things that I loved, that I've carried through my life, that have always been a source of, like a kind of a pillar.
Yeah.
Build like a foundation of what matters to me.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to have something that's sort of that through line through everything, something that you can always, like that magnetic draw that you can always bring you back to whether it's the ocean or the books or whatever it might be. I think it's important for us all to have something like that, right?
And everybody has different stuff, I meet people that love the mountains or love hiking, or they really love sports, and watching, and like whatever it is, I think that's really cool, and so that but for me, it's like deeply resonant. And so I just go, okay, this is something that's important. I need to include this in my life.
We'll expand on that. I want to dive deeper into that, but that's a great place to start because it reminds us sort of, we'll know sort of what your core is and what always gets you back to that presence. I think having presence as well, surfing allows you to just be present in that moment. Oh. I want to jump in though. I want to, you and I met, I think this kind of showcases the power of networking. We met through Jason Parkin.
I hate that word though.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you why. I'm going to find out why. But first I'll say, it was, though, a mutual connection who connected us to say, hey, you guys should meet. You had a local climate group that was hanging out once a month. Liquid carbon removal. Are you still doing that? And what was that about?
So yes and no, we're still doing that.
Okay.
I had a family health issue that I had to attend to over the last year. And so I couldn't do as many extracurriculars and evenings, like I was taking care of my boys. So it was somewhat momentarily put on pause, and we'll be bringing that back. So that is the answer to it. But it was just a group of people that wanted to hang out and understand what they're doing, largely in climate. So there's a bunch of different little nodes in Orange County, and Orange County can sometimes be a forgotten place when it comes to sustainability. But the reality is that we have so much to offer, so much really critical thinking. And, whether it's like the university, like UCI does so much amazing work in sustainability. And so they have a lot of adjacent groups like Scott Kitcher and what he's doing at Sustain SoCal, the Rev Hub groups, so you have that. You also have a bunch of like climate nonprofits or environmental nonprofits doing really amazing work. So the two that come to my mind are like Evan Marks at the Ecology Center.
Ecology Center, yeah.
I mean, Evan is amazing. I love Jonathan Zeidman. I actually just gave a talk there last night.
Oh, cool.
There's like the Surfrider Foundation, Chad Nelson and Michelle Kramer, what they've been able to do around sort of like environmental economics that they call surfonomics, I think is really interesting. You also have startups and VCs, so Dan Lichtenberg at Keiki Capital is a fascinating person. He's actually why I have my job. He invested in Carbon Collective investing when they were raising their pre-seed, and they were like, hey, we need someone that knows climate finance and marketing. And Dan was like, you should talk to Breene. So, and then there's Neil Rickner. And I don't know if you've seen what Neil Rickner is doing, but he's at a company called Heirloom. And they are a new version of wind energy, and it is smaller, easier to build. And so he's been doing that, and he's got like a partner project in Wyoming. He's amazing. But it's like there's all these groups of people that we get to talk to. And so as a result, we like to hang out. And there's, this, but there's always things that people are struggling with. And so if we get people together, there's a sort of a mutual collaboration and a unification of purpose of like trying to make the world just like, a little better.
And so can I jump in here and say that language that you just used, that mutual collaboration, making the world better, is that why do you prefer that language to networking? Tell me why you hate the word.
I hate the word networking because it feels transactional and not very human, right? So, and it feels like it doesn't feel like the lived experience of what it's like, because I think in a more honest way, it's how it's like dot connecting. It's who are you meeting? Why are they special? Like, how can you help them? How can they help you? Do you connect with them? And I think people are really unique and weird and amazing and, like frustrating at times. And so it's like networking doesn't seem to capture sort of the lived experience of that. Whereas I feel like dot connecting is kind of how I think of it, because like you might not want to connect with that dot, or that person or whomever that is. And they might have ideas and things they're working on. So networking always felt like a little icky to me. Whereas, trying to go figure out like who I can connect to and who I can help and who are interesting, like that has always felt like more representative of the lived experience. But that's also a little bit pedantic and annoying to be like, I don't like the term networking.
So we'll keep that just between us.
Yeah. And the people listening here. Yeah.
Well, Breene, I know there's a lot I want to unpack today. I want to talk about, some of these things you're already alluding to. I want to put all those resources that you mentioned. We'll put some links in the show notes for everybody. But we're talking today about creating a meaningful life while building a successful career. Yeah. I want to talk about you pivoting into climate work, disrupting marketplaces, your life as a writer and script reader, which is really cool, kind of in your former life, wealth management, financial education, all of that. But you're the president at Carbon Collective, so maybe let's start with just tell us a little bit about your work and your role and what you guys do there.
Yeah, so I'm at Carbon Collective Investing. We are a climate-focused advisor. Our main source of business is helping companies and nonprofits who want access to climate-smart investments. Right? The way we define climate smart is a full portfolio approach. It's an investment thesis and theory. You can see it on our website. That basically says, hey, what Vanguard is doing is really interesting, but we're in a massive change in which we need to take out the companies that we do not believe are going to make that change, which is like fossil fuel companies, and we need to double down into climate solutions. And so having an investment philosophy like that allows us to have like the stocks and the bonds and a full approach that is able to address people's needs. So we do 401ks and 403bs. As a result, we created a series of target date funds. We created inside those target date funds is a short duration green bond fund and a climate solution stock ETF. And then we also help individuals as well. That's actually where we got our start. It's just where we saw the demand in the market was in the B2B side and 401ks, 403bs. So we pivoted at a certain point. So that's where I'm at today.
Breene, if you like, for those that are listening who may not kind of what you just laid out, I get it. We know the importance of why it's there, but what's kind of the why behind it? Why is this work and these these climate smart investments? Why is that so important? What goes on in the investment community? What's going on with our 401ks and our retirement plans?
Yeah. So, I came at it. There's both like the ethical and the economic approach to this. So the ethical thing that I think a lot about is like the intentionality of how we use our money is really important right now. And if you look at how you invest, where you bank, all that, a lot of it is deeply connected to an industry that's like very destructive to our planet, which is fossil fuels, right? Like, and I know we live on them. I'm not some sort of like person that believes that we can shut them all down today, right. But I am a person that believes that we do not need to invest in them or can support their expansion. We should be thinking about how we should be winding them down. Now, the economic side of it is like through going into that, the first thing that we started to see was that the investment performance of energy over the last 10 years is like the worst sector, right? They did have a good year in 2022, right? And that's like Russia invades Ukraine, Europe embargoes Russian oil, same demand for oil, but lower supply. Oil companies do well, right? Accelerated inflation and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So yes, there have been times when oil has been good, but largely it has not been very good over the last 10 years. And then when you look at the go forward, which like we can't promise performance, so I don't know if you hear my dog, she's like jumping in and be like, you can't promise performance. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Dog language. But you look on the go forward, it's like their prospects of growing energy demand in oil is not very good. You're already seeing places like China looks like it may have peaked in terms of oil demand. Europe may have peaked as well. There may be a peaking in the United States soon. And so as a result, you're not seeing a real high projected demand of oil, right? And so if you're thinking that that's the case, then it's very unlikely that the investment returns would be good. And so a good fit for a portfolio. And so just looking at that, that's a good knowledge base. But also like you're seeing a deep increase in demand, especially like right now, everyone's talking about AI, right?
Yep.
That's going to demand the electrical grid to expand.
Yeah.
And so in all these areas, the likelihood of what is going to be facilitating that expansion is going to be solar, batteries, wind, nuclear, and these are all the kind of the climate solutions that we have in our investment portfolios that kind of stand to gain as a result of it. There might be some short-term like methane gas plants that do well especially domestically in the United States.
Yeah.
And maybe in other countries like Canada is starting to lean a little bit up, but it does feel like it's not a long-term solution to all of this.
Got it.
So that's the blend of like why I think about the importance. And if we have a financial system that is starting to invest differently, I think the world will change as a result too. So it's in a classic relationship, right? It's like one person helps the other or one thing helps the other and that is reciprocated. Like there's like echoes and effects that could mean that we might see changing in the financial services ecosystem as a result.
Okay. It sounds like, I mean, you're in the right place. It's obviously working. You guys, you've been at it for a while. There's demand. And I want to, though, we'll kind of circle back to it, but I want to maybe just rewind a little bit and take it all the way back. You're a fellow UC alum. You did your undergrad at UCLA. You were an international development major, though, which I found interesting. And did you ever get into international development work professionally at all? Was that something, or did you kind of?
I mean, you can kind of say what I'm doing right now is because so much of it, like investing, includes both domestic and international markets. But in terms of what I envisioned I was going to do, I'd say the answer is no.
Yeah.
So when I did that, I wanted to go work in Latin America, South America. I love Spanish. So I went and lived in Chile for a year. And because I wanted to get like very, 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 very good at Spanish.
Yeah.
So I could speak it in business. Also, I lived at home the year before and, I worked. And so I had a little bit of money and the surf in Chile is really good.
Yeah.
So on one of your posts, like one of my friends, Nick, it was like, how do you do the goofy foot forehand attack? Well, I lived in Chile for a year,
that'll do it.
Land of lefts. So I have a good baseline of that. That turned out to be a really weird pivot for me because I spent so much time thinking about language. I'd read books. I had a journal where I wrote every day in Spanish.
I was going to say, yeah, okay.
And then I would look up words in the back of the journal. And then I wrote a blog for my friends back home. And writing became this thing that I loved. I started creating a novel and, got asked by a family friend to help on a screenplay, a teleplay that he wanted to make into a television series. That never quite made it, but got the writing bug, and so I went to school at USC for creative writing in grad school.
So that was the trigger for that. I was wondering, sort of what was the catalyst for going into creative writing?
It was trying to get into international development and realizing that I loved writing. And so in doing that, I was going to school there and I was trying to figure out how do I make a living at it. And there was a job at the Clippers that opened up to cover the NBA. And it was an internship. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a way I can make money.
Were you a big sports fan? Was that your thing?
Huge sports fan. I played golf in college, so I knew a bunch of the athletes at UCLA, and followed them, went to the basketball games, and so as a result, I dove in, covered the games. Everyone else who got the internship was an undergrad, and they went home for the summer, so I was the only intern that was there for the summer at first, and so I got access. I got to meet Blake Griffin, on the courts, and then very quickly there's a big shift at ESPN, and so I got invited to be the managing editor of the Clipper blog, and this did not pay almost anything, but I was maybe I do this. I was already watching basketball, so maybe I do this and can make a living from it. That was ill-informed. because I could not make a living from it.
Because why?
Well, this is like the rise of blogdom, and
Yeah.
so like it wasn't like I was making any money,
Got it.
So had I made the next jump up and become like an ESPN writer, then I would have been able to make a living, right?
Yeah.
But that jump, I didn't make that jump, So like I made a preliminary jump, and so in the meanwhile, I'm still writing fiction, screenplays, sending them out to agents and all that stuff. But it was hard. Like I couldn't find a way to make it.
And so was that with the preliminary jump that you're mentioning, though, is that where you kind of go off into like Sony Pictures Entertainment, or is this all kind of the same thing in terms?
That's a similar preliminary jump. It's like,
Okay.
I had that and I covered the Clippers. I didn't make any money in either one of those things. I made a little bit of money being a production assistant for a man that has since passed. His name's Chris Brinker. He did a movie called, he was a producer on a movie called Boondock Saints, which was a movie that I really liked when I was younger. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I should probably go back. So I was like very excited to make a little bit of money from him.
Yeah.
But none of that I could make a living on. So I went back. My family had an ad agency. I went back and kind of tail between my legs and did that. Well, just being honest, like that wasn't what I do. But my parents were like, I was a good copywriter. I was good with people and strategy. And so my dad started pulling me into strategy meetings like really quickly. So there's like a nepotistic thing here, which is like, I was also good at it. But my dad was like, oh, wow, you can do this thing. Like come in this meeting with me. Cause initially I was just doing like film and TV work for him and copywriting. And then it was like changed to that and account management and strategy. And I wasn't like really into it. So I tried to figure out a way to like dislike it less. And I think that is actually a key to living a meaningful life. It's like, what can I do that will make me like it a little bit? And I got really into behavioral economics.
Okay.
My whole thing is, writing, I find the world to be amazing and totally baffling at the same time. Like I don't understand why people do the things they do a lot of the time. And fiction is a great way to have like that deep understanding of like, oh, that's why they do that. There's like a lot of logic to it, but that's qualitative. Like that's a one by one. And behavioral economics is like the quantitative side of it. It's like, these are the patterns of weirdness that people have. And I was like, my brain lit up. I was like, oh my gosh.
I love this.
There's so many explanations for why people are weird. like give it to me. And the direct application for that was finance. And it was at a time when finance was starting to be like, oh, behavioral finance. This is like so important. So I started to directly apply that to some of our financial services clients. One of them really liked the work that I had. And then I went to work for one of them. So I have this like professional path that leads me into finance. At the same time, my grandmother passes away and she asked me to speak at her memorial. She was a very funny person. She had cancer and invited us all to visit her in a time in which she was going to tell us that she was going to go into hospice. She was not going to do chemo anymore.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, this happens in life, but it's
sure.
one of those sad moments. She did not treat it that way, though. She's like, okay, guys, I'm glad you're all here. We got to talk about how important the memorial is because, that's something that can be uncomfortable. So we're just going to like sort that out right now. Kevin, that's my dad. Brian, that's my uncle. You two are going to speak. There's too many grandchildren. So Breene, you're going to speak for all of them.
Wow.
And I was like, Grandma, I'm like trying to, process these emotions around.
Yeah.
Die very soon. And she's like, yeah, do that. Totally important. But like, also I need you to like take this seriously about speaking at the funeral.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. But when I did it, it was a very transformative experience for me because she was an incredibly involved person. She was on the LA City Planning Commission and she was the mayor of her small town. She was on city council. She helped USC's Wrigley Institute of Environmental Studies, which is an amazing place that people who live in Southern California should go visit. It's on a blue water marine preserve on Catalina.
Yeah.
In two harbors. It's amazing.
How
and
cool.
when I was there giving the speech after I gave it, I had so many people come up and tell me stories of what they remembered of my Grandma Delta. And the light went off that helping other people was how you live a rich life.
So that was sort of a flashpoint moment for you where you're just like,
Oh,
okay,
100%.
yes.
Yeah, 100%. I saw someone that lived a meaningful life, and what they did was help people that were struggling, figure things out in their community. And that like light bulb went off. And I was like, okay, what can I do? And it was a long time ago, so I wasn't very good at anything, writing and storytelling, but not enough to make money, working in advertising a little bit, but like kind of working my way up.
But all of this experience is sort of compounding, though, at this point,
Yes,
right? You're building up a foundation.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And I sat back and thought to myself, if I want to have an impact on something, I wanted to affect a lot of people, right? And so I looked at climate change was not something that enough was being done on, and so I decided I was going to do that. And
what year was this, Breene? Give me a timeline here.
2012, 2013.
Okay. Yeah.
So like right in that area. So we're like not quite 15 years ago, but kind of getting in that area. And so I decided to go volunteer at Citizens Climate Lobby. They had a solution I really liked. It's changing the incentives in the United States to be better incentives for renewables and renewable energy is like the heart of everything they're doing. And I liked the approach. It was go develop a relationship with your member of Congress, and you are not trying to yell at them, which in my life, I always felt like was ineffective at persuading myself. I've never had anyone go, "Hey, Breene, you're a moron. I can't believe you do this. Like,
change your ways."
And I've never said thank you.
Right.
That was really well said. I am an idiot. I do actually wish I had the capacity of humanity to be like, you know what? You're right. I know you're being a jerk right now, but you're right.
Yeah. That's not usually how it works.
That wasn't how I felt it. So I was like, okay, if that's not how it works, like how I usually what I get is people that would like know me and be like, hey, look, I care about you, but this isn't working.
And
right?
was that the Citizens Climate Lobby approach?
Yeah. So it was like, hey, this is our ask of you, right? You said that this is what matters to you. These are the reasons why this policy really helps. And do you have any questions, and how can I help you better understand it?
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's what I do.
I've got two questions though. So at this point, this is great, and it's helping me link. Kind of the teaser I did for our show was, how does somebody go from here to here to here to here? You've just explained it very nicely, but I do wonder. I think when we have those sort of, as I call them, flashpoint moments, when something happens in your life and you're like, "Whoa, it's time! I got to make a change." A lot of times those can come to us, and not everybody though is willing to act on them. Right? You feel it. It's like a punch in the face, and you either have to decide, okay, I'm going with it. So I guess I want to know what drove you to say, that's it, I'm changing. And then in partnership with that is why climate? Like where was the bridge there? Was that always something sort of in the back of your mind? Because you didn't necessarily have that through professional or educational pathways. So why climate? What gave you the strength to kind of go, this is where I'm headed?
So I think flashpoint moments, and I'm just going to use a metaphor because I've just been coaching my kids' baseball team, are almost like pitches.
Okay.
Right? They keep coming to you in life, but you got to be ready for the one, and
the strike right down the middle. You're like, this one looks good.
Or it's the one that it's the hanging curveball that's like above the strike zone, but you love the high. Like, I don't know what it is that is your thing.
Great analogy.
But it's the thing that you really see, right? And when you really see something and you're present and it connects, I think people are going to get more opportunities in life, but they have to be looking. They have to be looking for their pitch, looking for their opportunity. And I think I was lost in my 20s. I think the 20s are a hard time.
Agree.
Because at least my experience of it was, I went to school and I got good grades and I was good at golf. And so I got a scholarship, and there was all these gold stars that I was accumulating. And I thought when I would go out into the working world, I'd be like, look at all these gold stars I got. Give me more gold stars.
The floodgates should open wide open for you, and it should all come pouring in.
And they didn't, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, what? I don't understand this new system.
Yeah. What is this?
And so I was really looking, I was like unhappy and trying to look and trying to piece together what it meant I didn't really know. And for that one in particular, I didn't really resonate with everything my grandmother did, right? Like she was more conservative than I am. I didn't want to get into city politics. I didn't like that. It just felt hard, So, I mean, but the environmental stuff did. But I wasn't going to, they weren't going to invite me back to the advisory board at USC. I couldn't do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now they eventually did years later, but I had to go to a place where that side of it really resonated. I was born in Hawaii. I've been around the ocean my whole life. I'm very sensitive to changes in temperature and weather. I've always noticed it. People are like, climate is here now, but it was here then too. I saw the changes. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I just felt like that's a good worthy thing to go into. So I was really looking for something. I already was primed to in a sense that I cared about this, and I just kind of committed, and I committed without a fear. I knew that and part of this is the way I talk to myself. I was like, I suck at everything, but if I'm going to suck, I might as well suck at this.
Yeah. Huh.
And that was a nice way. I know that could be too negative as self-talk for some people, but that was a nice way to reduce the stakes for me, right?
Yeah.
It mattered to me. I didn't have to be good at it, but I was going to spend my time at least trying, and for that, it kind of opened the doors. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm getting a little better. And there's also humility that comes with making a meaningful life, at least for me, mm-hmm. That I was getting better and making impact, and it would be small impacts, right? It wouldn't be huge. I'm not changing the world, but maybe what I do helps get someone else to do something. And that feels good, you know? And so it's how can you do that a little better or to more people or figure it out? And all of a sudden I just got really interested in the successes, and the failures started to become less debilitating.
And it obviously has been recognized. I mean, I love this. I've got this quote from you. I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible, which also means getting more money out of fossil fuels and into climate solutions. This mm-hmm. creates a win-win for employees, a win for plan sponsors, a win for the planet. You've been recognized by GRIST on their annual list of climate and justice leaders to watch. So kind of going to that spot where, hey, I'm going to suck a little bit less. Obviously, you don't suck at this. You're at now at the point where you're getting recognition for the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and just like any other relationship, none of this happens in a vacuum, right? I know I got recognized, and I think it's something I've well earned. But I have two co-founders that do a ton of work that didn't, that weren't on that list. Yeah. Right. But I'm the public face. I have Taves on our team. He's our head of 401k operations. I was just on a call with him. He's doing all this amazing work. I have all these clients they are also doing incredible work. And a lot of them have been on these lists. And so part of this is finding my people and just trying to help them.
Yeah.
Part of it is you don't have to please everybody. Right. But who do you actually really want to help? And you can start with the people that matter to you. And let's start with the people who have similar problems that they'd like to see solved. And those are good galvanizing areas for helping and just trying to make those people's lives better,
Yeah. Well, speaking of helping people in their lives, let's take a quick break. And when I come back, I want to ask you to give some advice for people that want to get into this space. Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the episode. I'm always so inspired and motivated by these career stories, and I hope you are too. And I wonder, are you looking to be featured on the show? Each week, I chat with an invited guest who is an expert in their space or who has compiled a stellar resume. If you fit that description and are interested in being a guest, just hit me up at Derek Sabori on LinkedIn. And here's something else to consider. This show platform is for hire. I build professional and personal podcast profiles for people who are looking to stand out in a crowded marketplace. You've heard my guests say it's your personality, the way you connect with people, and your ability to relate and communicate that will help land that next job, client, or customer. So let's show off your personality, not just your resume, and let's do it on a podcast. Head over to theunderswell.com to learn more. And now back to the show. I want to ask you, right before the break, we were talking about just giving advice to people. You have kind of built your career in this space. You've gotten to this point where, as you alluded, we don't work in a vacuum. We don't work by ourselves alone. But what advice do you have for someone who is, I mean, you've been building Carbon Collective. You know, you said that you're not a co-founder, but not a co-founder. So you've been involved in this, building it from, from scratch, growing it. So what advice do you have for somebody that's building a business from scratch, starting something up, especially in this space? What should they be on the lookout for? What do they need to know? What does it take?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that has helped, there's two big things that have helped me, which is thing number one is everyone around you is struggling with something, right? And so everyone needs help. And as a result, there's like a bunch of ways in which you can help them, right? Thing number two is what matters to me. And then I just try to connect thing number one and thing number two.
That's a pretty simple formula.
It's all I do, right? It's like, there's like the ikigai thing of like what the world wants, what you can get paid for, what you have access to, and what you love and you're good at.
Yep.
Like what's in the middle. But it's like, I don't know, like what do I care about? What am I good at? And like what are people struggling with and willing to pay me for? Right? And it's like, I don't know, I just go there.
Yeah.
And just keep doing it better and better. And I wouldn't profess to be perfect at any of it. But I do take it really seriously and I try to do really excellent work. I try to do my absolute best when I do it. And when I make mistakes, I try to clean them up. And if I need help with cleaning up, I try to ask for help. And I just see it as a process now. I think when I was younger, I had this idea of being an adult and being perfect.
I can relate.
Like you're an adult, you have everything all figured out. You do everything right. You know,
super pro, super professional. We need to be.
Yeah. Oh, the responsibility in life are very well handled. And that has not been my lived experience of it. Even though I think from a lot of people on the outside looking in, they'd be like, oh, like, you live in a great place and are married to an amazing woman. You have great kids. And like, this is all true, but there's a constant struggle every day to maintain that ecosystem. Cause it's like, my wife needs my attention or wants my attention. My children want my attention. My business wants my attention. I want my own space for my own attention, surfing or books. Other people want my help, and what I've done is try to just be like, okay, all of those things are true. Let's just organize them. And so I can dedicate my time. So when I'm with my wife, like I'm really trying to be there and help her and like ask for help from her, from things that I need. Communicate with her, trying to do that with my boys. They're 7 and 5, so they're so fun. My business, I try to talk with clients that way. Like what do they actually need? And I always try to think of like, where are they actually? And this even goes back to you when you were talking to me about this. It's like I was trying to imagine like what it would take to really, have this Underswell take off. Like who are the people that need to be listening to it? Like, what actually sets apart like a great conversation, so like, how do you actually make a business out of it? Or maybe this is something you do that gets you the job that you can still keep doing because you're just having enough interesting conversations.
Right.
It's like, what is your life? Like there might be like the type of person that's listening to this is like, I'm stuck at my job. That might be like, oh, this, there's a handful of people. It's like, oh, I love Breene's writing, so I follow him on LinkedIn. I want to listen to what his life has been like. Or I love Derek, and I want to help support his new project. And, maybe there's some new good stuff. And there's some people that stumble upon it and like, yeah, I am struggling with this topic. How do I want to listen? Let's just say there's 3 buckets. And like, how do you, for whomever is listening, just understanding what the needs are of those people coming in. And be like, hey, like these, so some of the questions you ask have been really good, because you're helping unpack people's situations and that's what I think, what I think about is like, how can I keep doing that little thing a little better?
Yeah.
And where is and kind of like a hidden third thing is like, where is success? How can I make it better? If I've made a mistake, how can I fix it? But I think sometimes people forget to go, where is success? And the success may be so small that it doesn't feel like success. Right?
Yeah.
But you're just doing this for you, Derek, is you're putting yourself out there as a success. I don't know how many listeners there are to this. Like, I really don't. It might be 4.
Right.
Right?
But someday it'll be 400.
But why did those 4 people tune in? Right?
Yeah.
You're like, well, how do I get it to 7?
Right.
Right? And then 3 weeks later, you finally figure out how you can get it to 7. And then you go, well, if I did this, could I get like 8 or 10 people? Like, maybe I need to individually reach out to people so that they know that this person that I know is on there. And if I do 2 hours of work, sending it to 100 people on my list and emailing them about it personally, that will get 20 people, right?
So constant improvement.
Yeah, but it's like, where is success, and how can I like double down? Like, why did people like and join in for that first little bit of success? And so, like, how can it like add up a little bit, you know? And it's success on your terms, right? You're not trying to, like, you learn from other people, but you're trying to learn about like where you're at, like authentically. And you have to like let go of like ego and fear, because the ego is like, well, this doesn't actually matter, you know? And you have to be like, and the fear is like, maybe I can't do it. And you have to be able to say like, look, I'm neutral. 4 is my number of listeners that I'm at. Right? Who are they? What do they care about? What do they like? You know, like, how do I get to 7? How do I get to 20? How do I get 100? How do, you know, and then all of a sudden, like, you can start to like learn, is it like the questions that you should be asking, or the guests that you should be hosting, or the topics that you should be describing? And then all of a sudden, then like, there's this like real moment where like you've really learned your craft and your audience such that you have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people that are tuning in. And it's like, but that's not going to happen tomorrow. But it could, but that's what's on the table.
Yes. And I love something, 2 things. One, I'm really fascinated by how you've now spun this, and this has become my coaching session here from you to get some advice, which is great.
This is what I do. This
exactly.
Is what I do.
And I'm hoping though people listen to it and realize though that the advice you're giving to me, which is so good, also can apply to anybody in their job, whatever they're trying to build and do. Right? It's that same thing. It's the same formula. Yeah,
it's like, what am I trying to do? Where am I actually at? Who are the people I'm helping? What do they actually need?
Yeah.
You know, and
where's success?
There's like a little tension too of like, both what I'm doing matters, and like, I got a long way to go, right? This is like we don't have millions of people listening to this right now, right? You know, but if that's like the goal, like, you have to figure out like, okay, how do I get to the next stage?
Yeah.
What is the next little step, you know, that gets this group of people to tune in? Will it be better if I have some sort of teaser about this episode that features like a video teaser, or will that help me get more people? Do I need to have like a video clip of this so people can, you know, realize, oh, I really missed out on something, and go back and watch it?
Right.
Do I, you know, it's just like, there's all these little things that you can start to think about. And so a bunch of it is born from empathy of the people you're trying to help.
And so with that said, based on what you just said, this advice that you're giving though, what's the next thing for you? What's next for you?
I mean, I'm at a really lovely place at Carbon Collective in which we're small and we're successful, and that's great, right? And there's a like handful of variables of success where we're exiting sort of the hard phase of starting a company, and we're getting into the fun phase. And so I think some success it's going to be scaling, you know, so it's going to have more business, more companies that sign up with us and use us. There's some fun things that the door opens for as we get bigger. So shareholder engagement is something that I would love to do. I can't wait for that day where the companies in which we have an ownership stake, we can go to them and say, and we have a bunch of ideas on what this could be, and we're not committing to any of them. But in a similar mindset we had, it's like, hey, in my head, this is just the framework I'm using right now. I'm not saying we're going to do this. But in my head, something I've been really attracted to is going after the small companies that don't get as much investor attention and being like, hey, we're owners in your company, and we think you guys are really cool. And we've been thinking about this. And here are 5 things that we think could make your company better. And also, like, just a little cherry on top, it'll reduce your emissions.
Yeah.
That would be so fun if it's like we went to these people and like figured out ways to help them save money or to build like more localized supply chains, or, you know, I don't know what the thing would be that we would do, but taking an interest in these smaller publicly traded companies and trying to figure out a way to make them better just sounds so fun to me. Now that day is not going to come until I get to a certain scale.
Right.
And so I know that. And so like a lot of what I do is like, what you're doing is like helping me share my story. That is a lot of times how people learn about me. And so they can come and find me and decide to hire me and work with me. And the team at Carbon Collective, we have some amazing people that, you know, on the team, but it's like that sort of stuff. Can I issue new ETFs? Again, I need to be at like not as big a size for shareholder engagement, but I'd like to get to there. All of this will help because, like, you know, on a personal side, like I don't need to make a lot of money, but making a little bit more. I took a big pay cut to come and build something. I would like to get to that place and maybe a little bit better in terms of compensation, just so I can, you know, comfortably take my kids to the mountains in the winter.
Here.
Surfboard, you know, every year without worrying about the budget, and save for their potential college and my retirement a little bit better.
Which comes quickly.
Like, but I jumped in knowing that I was going to be kind of like having my long-term financial security around equity, which is great. I think it's a really great decision. I think I'm really well suited for it. But I'd like to get to, like, you know, to that financial, like a more financial comfort.
Yeah.
Like I make a good living, so I'm not like worried now, but it's like, you know how it is. It's taking that big risk to do something. I'm excited for the day in which the only thing that is worse off in my life than before I made the decision is like how much money I make. Right. But everything else, like I work from home, I coach my kids' baseball team. I'm there like for my wife. I get to see her. You know, I get to do things in the community. I get to work with amazing people we have good systems. Like we work really well. I have amazing clients. They inspire me all the time. Like my clients are incredible.
So this is a meaningful life that we've been talking about.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Now the magic is when it pays us enough to continue doing even more of the meaningful work.
And like I'm in a place in which like it pays me a good living. Like I'm good, right? I just live in an expensive world, and so I don't need I'm not out there trying to make, you know, Elon Musk wealth, right? But I would like to have, like, that's just not what I care about.
Yeah.
But I do want to scale my business to have like meaningful impact. I do want to, you know, be able to provide for my children, you know, and like maybe worry just a touch less. Although I'm really good at worrying, so I don't know if that would completely go away.
Well, here's to that. We'll do a toast to that, and hopefully that's the direction things are headed in. I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah. All this like feels like on the path. I'm walking it. I feel very confident those days will come. I just want them to come sooner than later. So there's
I'm with you. Breene, I want to ask for someone who wants to. Just in the last few minutes here, I'll wrap it up here for you and let you get back to it on your Friday. But for someone who does want to work in climate change, though, in this space, it's a little different than it was in 2012 when I started back in 2006 or so.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about this space? How is it changing? Where do you think it's headed? What's working? What's not? Are we? Yeah. What's the state of things in climate action work?
So I would say the biggest thing that I have seen is there are a lot of climate tech and climate solutions that are no longer sacrifices. Mm-hmm. They're just better. And so that means there's a lot of opportunity, but it also means the messaging is changing to like just what the benefits are, right? Like, so, there's people that I really like, and they just come to the top of my head, but copper, they make an incredible range, right? And it's electric and it's beautiful and it's just a better cooking experience, right?
Yeah.
But their messaging is starting to change to be just about that better cooking experience. Whereas at the beginning, it was like decarbonize your kitchen.
Save the world. Yeah, exactly. Got it.
So I would say there's a lot out there, but really, really focusing on product market fit is changing. And that can feel at times like your work is less purposeful. Mm-hmm. because if you're like, this just makes your life better, it's less about like the stuff that makes you feel good. But that's why I make like stupid little jokes of like making HR people's lives easier as my climate solution.
And going back to, if I can jump in, and going back to when you said, hey, these funds are seeing a better return and the outlook for them looks better.
Yes, the trend is that way.
Sure, yeah. But that's the sell rather than, well, move your money over here because it's helping to, fight against climate or whatever it is, or save the world.
We're in a new era where the communication of the benefits is like starting to change. And as a result, there's a new mindset, which is like, you have to be really focused on the consumer. Like, because this is no longer about creating like novel technologies that people are willing to spend more on to learn as a way to get it up to scale. It's like, no, they're in this place where you have to figure out like how you help your consumers. And also because there's less like VC funding, there's less federal funding. There's still like that still does exist, but being relentless on actually solving the problems is going to be the key thing that separates somebody that wants to work on climate from someone who doesn't. And what that then means is if you want to work in climate, go after a specific. It's not a general thing anymore, right? You can't want to work on climate and go, I don't know if I want to work in sustainability or in VC or a climate tech startup. It's like, no. You got to be going, I want to be an operator in a climate tech startup that's a hard tech company that's doing this, right?
Okay.
And so it's understanding like what your unique skill sets are, and everyone has them, right? Some people are good at like finance or accounting or operations or whatever. It's like you then need to go and find the place that you actually know the unique set of things or learn them fast beforehand and learn about the specific companies or nonprofits that are doing that work. It requires more focus on and more like self-awareness of the individual as well as the awareness of the people you're helping. And again, that's the cornerstone of a great relationship. So climate is much more relational than it's ever been. I think of that as like the term and less competitive. It's like, how can you really relate and provide like a lot of value to an organization that will also provide you value? And so it's like, that's a nice way to think of like this symbiosis. Otherwise, it can feel daunting and transactional, and you have to apply to a million places, and you won't hear back to them. It's depressing. But if you really start to focus on like the places that you're deeply interested in, or even maybe not deeply, it's just like you're more interested in. You like just think about like the things that you're already good at your job, or the things that drive you crazy about your job that you wish other people knew, like how to fix. Everyone has these.
I want to take it all the way back to what you started with this idea of not necessarily transactional networking, but connecting the dots. So finding your role in that space, connect that dot, connect it to somebody else and make the most of it and really lean in on those connections.
And eventually you're going to find your place. There's a place for everybody.
Yeah. I always like to say in this space, like every role plays a role in climate action for sure.
For everybody. Yeah. Right. I mean, not every place is a place for you though. And that's the hard part, right? So you have to like go and build and figure it out. And like, it's a journey and a process. And I can promise you that there will be difficulties and heartbreaks because there was for me, but I can also promise you it is like one of the most rewarding things I ever embarked on. And I think it will be for other people.
I love it. That's a great place for us to land this airplane, as they say. Breene, I want to give you just kind of a last minute here though, for any final thoughts, I always kind of offer this soapbox moment where it's like, hey, you know what? Open forum for you to a shout out or a call out or any last advice. How do we wrap things up for our listeners here? What do you want to leave everybody with?
I'd say two things. The vast majority of people that I talk to deeply underestimate what they're capable of.
Okay.
Go try to like see what you're capable of. And the second thing is like, if people are ever like have questions about me or what I do or whatever that is, like they can always reach out to me. The best ways are on LinkedIn. I write there a lot. And then, also they can just email me too. So, Breene@carboncollective.co.
Awesome. We'll put the links in the show notes. Everybody will have those. And I love it. Expect more of yourself. You can do more than you think you can. Some really great advice, Breene. Thanks for sharing your story with us as well. All those insights, and I'm excited to kind of watch the company continue to grow, watch your work continue to evolve. So awesome, man. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing it all, and hey, have a great weekend.
Yep, you too.
Thanks, Breene. Hey, everyone. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what you heard, be sure to check back weekly, subscribe to the show. And if you want to be featured on the show, come hit us up at theunderswell.com. We'd love to hear from you.